Your follower count has almost nothing to do with whether you're ready for PR. I know that's what a lot of people are led to believe. I know the assumption is that you get big first and then you get press. But what I've watched are brands with 1,200 followers land national media coverage, and I've watched brands with 100,000 followers get ignored by the media. So today I want to walk you through why that happens and why you might be more ready right now than you think. For a long time, the playbook for growing a brand looked like this, right? Chasing attention, chasing visibility, get as many eyes on you as possible, as fast as possible. But the problem is that the path runs through vanity metrics, right? Like I've been working in marketing for almost 20 years, and we would start with the campaign and then line up the campaign with the distribution channels. Whereas now we're given these distribution channels like Instagram and TikTok and have to line up a campaign for that, right? I speak with doctors and healthcare providers who spent 10 years in med school and don't want to spend 10 hours a week learning how to hack the algorithm. I totally get it because follower counts, like counts, views, numbers that feel good in the moment, but don't actually tell you anything about whether people really trust you or would even hire you. And because that whole model has been built on attention, which is fickle and expensive to keep buying, it produces unpredictable results because you might go viral one time and never again, or viral once and the next month dead, right? The algorithm shifts and you're back wondering where your next client is coming from. I see so many founders trying to go viral, like that is their marketing strategy, trying to discount, flash sales, endless advertising just to stay visible and relevant. And I understand the instinct because that's what it seems like everybody else is doing, right? But that is a fast path to burnout because you're spending enormous energy trying to be loud and visible or playing by a playbook like Instagrams that gets stale depending on the latest app updates or whatever Adam Mosseri and his team decide to roll out, when the thing that actually moves your business forward could have been available to you the whole time. And depending on what kind of job you have, it might even be easier and more available to you than you think. Virality is proof of attention. It is not, however, proof of authority. Those are two completely different things, and confusing them is what ends up keeping so many founders stuck because they're chasing the wrong metric and the wrong path. Again, a video can go viral because it's funny or shocking or well timed with a trend. And none of that might have anything to do with whether you're actually seen as credible in your field and whether you're going to get customers as a result. Whereas authority isn't about how many people saw you or happened to see you. It's about whether the right people believe you and trust you. So here's the shift that I want to encourage you to think about making. Instead of chasing attention, build authority. Authority starts with credibility, which for so many thought leaders and experts, congratulations, you probably already have. That includes your training, your experience, your point of view, what's already there, whether you have 200 followers or 200,000 followers. When that credibility gets recognized by a third party, especially someone like a journalist, a podcast, a publication, that credibility is elevated to authority. And authority is what makes you influential in your space. And influence, and I mean real influence, is what turns into consistent, predictable income, not the roller coaster that the attention economy hands you. So why not better leverage what you already have? Your credibility doesn't need an audience of 100,000 people to be real. It just needs to be recognized by the right people in the right places. So let's get specific about why this matters, especially for PR, because I think this is where some of the understanding really lives. Journalists are not looking for the biggest account as a determination on who they are going to feature or interview. They are looking for the best answer to the question that they're already trying to write about from a credible source. So if a reporter is writing a piece on, say, perimenopause or on a new skincare ingredient trend or on how small business owners are handling burnout, they need a credible voice, a clear point of view, and someone who can speak very clearly on the topic. Your follower count doesn't factor into that equation as much. What they're looking for is whether you have a defined area of expertise, whether you speak on it clearly and consistently, like on your website, and whether you'd make their article better and more credible. A brand new practice with 800 followers and a sharp, specific point of view is often a better fit for a story than a huge account with a broad, generic one that lacks credibility. This is exactly why marketing and PR are different games entirely. Marketing asks for attention. PR gives value first, gives expertise, a perspective, something that a journalist can actually use and lets the recognition come back around. You don't need permission from an algorithm to start pitching for PR. Because imagine this, imagine that you're reading a story about sleep hygiene habits, right? And there are two people interviewed in this story, right? One is a mommy influencer with 1 million followers, and the other one is a doctor that has committed their livelihood to sleep hygiene, right? That's not to say that the influencer might not have positive things to say, but you can see why influencers without credibility don't get featured in pieces like this. They don't get the interview opportunities because their credibility is not able to be borrowed for a piece like this, right? We need a credible source, which is why someone like a sleep doctor is going to be more sought after. Follower accounts, completely aside. Now, I also want to pause here because I said something a few minutes ago that I need to be honest about too. And I said that your credibility is already there. And for most of you listening, I believe that that's probably true. Like you've got a license, a degree, a certification, experience, before and afters, results, years of practice, whatever that might look like. But I know some of you are earlier than that. Maybe you're just starting out and maybe you're building that expertise in real time a little bit too. And I want to be clear that you can't be an authority if you don't have legitimate credibility underneath it. That part is not optional, and no amount of content or confidence can manufacture it. I can't tell you how many times here at Factor PR, if you don't know, we're a PR agency for women's health, wellness, beauty, and aesthetics brands. And once in a while, we will get a pitch from someone who has a great personal story. You know, for example, one that we received recently was a woman who overcame a certain type of cancer and was, went very viral on social media. She even got some top tier media coverage of her health journey, and she's looking for more coverage of her health journey. And we turned it down. Like that's not what we do. That's not what we are experienced in. And it wasn't because her journey was not valid. It certainly was. And I thought that her story in and of itself was so incredible, but the types of stories that she's looking for is very, very specific. And she's got her own experience, but in terms of her own experience based on the media outlets that we work with, they're not just looking for experience. They are looking for experience in the field and credibility to show up with it. So back to credibility, right? If that's you, if you're someone who is kind of more just starting out, you got to build the credibility first before you build the authority. So get the training, the certification, the license, the study, whatever the legitimate marker of expertise is in your field. Again, you cannot fake credibility here. You cannot expect to be an authority in your field if you don't already have some kind of reputation in it. Credibility that's earned is the only kind that holds up under scrutiny, and a journalist or a patient or a client will find the gap if it's not really there, and that's not what we want, right? Once you have that foundation, start working with real people, document the results, even in small numbers. 3 client transformations, 5 case studies, a handful of reviews. That's not nothing, right? That's better than nothing. Something is better than nothing. You might have to work a little bit harder to get recognized, but start with a sturdy foundation and it's only upwards from there. That's the beginning of a track record. And a track record is what credibility is actually made of. So get comfortable talking about your specific area of expertise in public, even to a small audience. This is where content matters too, but not necessarily content that goes viral, but just to practice articulating your point of view clearly and to start leaving a trail that shows that you know what you're talking about and you have a clear perspective and can speak confidently on it. Oftentimes at Factor PR, my team and I will use those social media clips in our pitches to corroborate our pitch as well too. Consider learning as well from people who are a few steps ahead of you, like a mentor, getting involved in a certification program, a more established name in your field who can vouch for you or bring you into rooms that you're not in yet. Borrowed credibility used honestly can be a real bridge while you're building your own. And keep in mind that none of this happens overnight, and it shouldn't, because once that foundation is real, that's when recognition, PR, building your brand, building authority actually has something solid to attach itself to. Trying to build authority on top of credibility that is not there yet is likely like trying to build a house on sand. It might look fine for a while, like, yeah, we're like, jamming the hammer into the wood and we're moving on up. But with every, every kind of hammer that you do, the house starts sinking back into the sand. It won't hold. So kind of like fake productivity, so to speak. We don't want that. So it's worth repeating here. Slow authority beats fast virality every single time. If you are someone that is building a brand that is going to give back to you one day, right? Build it right the first time if you can. And if it's not the first time, that's okay. Now you know, because we know a viral moment, yeah, sure, it gets us a spike. Man, that dopamine hit, we love it. But even a single PR placement done right has infinite shelf life. It becomes a credibility asset that you can put on your website, reference in your bio, mention in your next pitch, and build upon. That's not something a follower count can buy you, right? I can't tell you how many times in 10 years we've had clients innocently on social media, especially on the Meta platforms, get completely shut down. All of that time, all of that energy spent on building an audience on rented land was taken away from them in a moment, right? That's not what I want from you. And again, I'm not saying social media is bad. I'm not saying going viral is bad. No, I think that it should help give your authority more reach, but I don't think it's the place to try to build your authority, right? That's something that a clear point of view and the willingness to pitch yourself or have someone pitch for you gets you. And this is where I think a lot of founders kind of self-select out of opportunities that they were actually ready for it. They think, I'll wait until I'm bigger, until I have more followers, I have a new website, more polish, more proof. Readiness for PR is not about all of the flashy things. Like I said, it is about clarity and credibility. Do you know exactly what you can help people with? I'm not talking about your job, right? Like journalists are not interested in, covering your job per se, unless it's like a trade publication. They're interested in the problem that your expertise and your experience solves. So can you speak to that in a sentence to a journalist that they could use tomorrow? That's the actual bar. And it has nothing to do with your following. I hope this is a relief for some of you, because if you're listening to this and you don't have a huge following yet, here's what I want you to focus on instead. Pretend I'm your publicist right now. Get super specific about your expertise, not 100 different things that you could talk about. Think about that one clear lane you can speak on with real authority. Okay. And again, this is not about the job that you do. It's about the conversation that you can lead. So if you are a doctor who is a pediatrician, it's not talking about examining kids and, going into the office and pediatrician type stuff. It might be bigger than that. It might be bigger than what are the problems that kids are facing in school today, right? Solving the problem of making kids or helping kids become the healthiest version of themselves so that they can thrive in adulthood, right? Think in terms of kind of like your mission statement instead of the job that you do. That specificity is what makes you quotable and pitchable, regardless, again, of your numbers. And I don't know about some of you guys, but I'd rather build something sustainable instead of build something, again, that, gets momentary attention, but is forgotten the next day. Start creating content around your expertise on your blog, on your social. Again, even if the audience is small, journalists and producers search for expert perspectives constantly. And if yours already exists somewhere, you're findable before you've even sent a single pitch. And give yourself permission to pitch or to get help pitching before you feel, quote unquote, big enough. That feeling of not being big enough rarely goes away on its own. And it, has you sit there and kind of look at your peers and be like, why are they getting all of this recognition, right? Am I not worthy? Stop that self-talk, guys. Yeah, I'm here to tell you that if you've got the credibility, you are worthy. Other things that will help is proof, right? Proof of your credibility. Again, if you're, someone like a dermatologist or a plastic surgeon, that can be befores and afters, how many people you've served in your practice. It can be a mix of imagery, stories, and statistics, right? That will help ultimately get you featured as well too, because, in a sea of other, say, board certified dermatologists, it's helpful to have, vantage points and the proof that help you stand out amongst your competitors too. That's the turning point. And again, it's available to you now, not at some arbitrary follower count in the future. So here's what I want you to walk away with today from this bite-sized episode. PR was never gatekept by your follower count. It's gatekept by clarity, credibility, relationships, and whether you are willing to put yourself forward. You do not need to go viral to be in demand. I have never gone viral myself, my friends, and I'm running a 7-figure business. You just need to be clear about who you help and how, and let the authorities start doing the work that vanity metrics never could. I hope this episode was helpful, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode deposited some useful advice and insights to help you grow your wealth. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. You can find more resources, episode details, and updates at growyourwealthpodcast.com. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram. Follow me at Grow Your Wealth Podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or takeaway from today's show. Until next time, remember, burnout is optional. Take care, and I'll see you next week.